Scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the home of Sooner fans, KREF, Norman, Oklahoma, and streaming live on the KREF app.
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
All right, we got to start with the important question, Grayson. You taking the 100 dudes or you taking the gorilla?
No weapons. I gotta go with the gorilla, man. I don't see even how 100 men could take on a gorilla. I'm gonna give the gorilla the benefit of the doubt until I'm proven wrong.
I gotta know, like, what kind of demeanor are we dealing with here with the gorilla? Do we just take it for granted that this is a highly aggressive, combative gorilla? What if the gorilla doesn't want the smoke?
But it's still a gorilla.
It is still a gorilla.
Because here's the thing. It may not want the smoke until you give it the smoke.
Fair point.
Then he's going to retaliate.
Oh, welcome to Twitter in 2025,
Bro, the fact that went so viral. That was the most viral thing of the weekend.
I know. Just completely random. But that's internet culture for you. Folks, this is Locked In, brought to you every day by Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno. Family owned and operated. They pride themselves on having the best service technicians and friendly service advisors that put your needs first. Give them a call for more info on their fantastic line of Buicks and GMCs, which are some of the best trucks and SUVs on the road. The low-pressure environment creates an enjoyable experience for everyone, and they have half-price oil changes on Saturdays. So check out Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Of course, Gunny of Stutzman Army immediately texting to say, I'd give him all the smoke till he passes out. Yeah, we know what smoke you're talking about, Gunny.
I mean, that might be one of your better opportunities.
Get him high.
Just incapacitate it.
Get the gorilla high, then you take him down. Perhaps. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line if you'd like to chime in throughout the show. Well, stuff has happened over the weekend, Grayson. Not a ton of stuff, but there's not a whole lot left for Oklahoma to accomplish in the transfer portal. Let's start with the bad news. The bad news is that I walked out of the studio on Friday afternoon under the impression that Oklahoma was primarily battling Purdue for Lance Mason's services. Before I made it home to Blanchard, America, we learned that Lance Mason had in fact committed to the University of Wisconsin, which kind of underscores, I should say, the sheer obnoxiousness of trying to cover anything and everything that happens in the transfer portal, because it can all change on a dime, and when it does, it's usually about money. And Lord knows there's a lot of it being thrown around in the transfer portal. So Oklahoma's expectation was that they would just have to fend off Purdue to land the coveted Missouri State tight end transfer, Lance Mason. Well, in the end, he's a Badger. I don't know if he's officially signed yet, but he has committed to Wisconsin. And that kind of leaves Oklahoma up a creek a little bit at tight end, Grayson.
Just a little bit?
I mean, who are you going to go and get at this point? The options are less than stellar. And at this point, from what I've been told, I kind of tend to think Oklahoma might just stand pat at tight end, which, if that is indeed the case, Grayson, it is abundantly clear, blatantly obvious what this team's Achilles heel is heading into 2025, and it is that tight end position. Somebody's going to need to step up. Somebody's going to need to level up. Somebody's going to need to seize the bull by the horns in that position group and prove that they are capable of holding on to starting duty, and not only holding on to it, but playing solid football at that position. If not, man, I don't know what you do. You might just have to game plan without a tight end.
I mean, 4 wide and 1 running back. I'm pretty sure Ben Arbuckle is creative enough to where he can make it work.
Oh, yeah, he's got some 10 personnel sets down pat, no question.
Sure, and there is that way of looking at it. There's the other way of looking at it is name me an SEC team in recent memory that's been successful without a serviceable tight end. I don't know how far I'd have to go back to find an example of that. So there's also that. But Oklahoma has telegraphed to the entire country that we don't like what we have at tight end, because they've pursued multiple in the last, 2-3 weeks and have struck out on both. So, I mean, that's where your Achilles heel is going to lie, is that, whether it's pass protection with chips, or maybe you're going to have a weakness in run blocking in a league where you don't really want to have a weakness run blocking. We just saw a linebacker go in the first round from Alabama. So, yeah, that might be a problem.
The big wild card in that tight end room as it stands might very well be Oklahoma's own gorilla, Will Huggins, the former Pittsburgh State gorilla.
Well done.
Now, throughout the spring, the reviews on Huggins have been pretty strong, but especially with the whole Bauer Sharp experience in the rearview mirror, Grayson, I'm taking a cautious approach. I would recommend taking a cautious approach when you're dealing with a guy that in 4 years of competition at the Power 4 level managed to catch 1 pass. He had 19 catches at Pittsburgh State last year, sure. But prior to that, in 4 years at the University of Kansas, 1 catch, which just so happened to come at Owen Field. But 1 catch is 1 catch, and that was all Will Huggins had.
And then he only had an uninspiring 19 against when he was at Pitt State. So, look, these guys could come out, one guy could emerge and be pretty serviceable, maybe be pretty impactful. But the truth of the matter is, where it stands right now, it is a whole bunch of question marks and, quite frankly, mediocrity. Because your tight end that has made the most impression on anybody is a dude who hasn't played on the offensive side of the ball in God knows how long. So that's the quandary that you're in at this particular moment in time.
Reformed Homer says, I just read Alabama had no portal defections. Is that true? Offhand, I don't know, Reformed Homer, but I can't recall seeing an Alabama player hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, I don't know.
This spring. Alabama's one of those schools, man, historically, and a lot of that is due to the influence of Nick Saban, who is still obviously around the program quite a bit, but there's not a whole lot of there wasn't a whole lot of turnover during the Saban days, unless Saban wanted there to be turnover, and it seems that has carried over with Kalen DeBoer. Tyson from Stigler asks, can Caden Helms not do a dang thing? Interesting that you bring him up, because I'll tell you this much. I was having a conversation with somebody in the building last week that said Caden Helms is probably the most well-rounded tight end that Oklahoma has. Is he the best by far at one specific thing? Like, does he really have a calling card? Not necessarily, but if you're just looking for somebody that can do all that is required at that position and do it at an above-average clip at minimum, Caden Helms might be the guy. Now, the question becomes, is that good enough in the SEC? Is that good enough to win a starting job, or do you feel like you need to have, does Ben Arbuckle feel like he needs to have somebody that is a freakazoid athlete like a Jaren Kanak out there in order to make the tight end position worth deploying? And we don't know, right? Like, there's a ton that we don't know going into the fall about what this offense is going to look like. I don't think the Crimson Combine probably told the average fan or the average media member a whole heck of a lot in that regard. Also, I just noticed the old man left his glasses here in the studio, so he'll realize it eventually. He'll come around. A 405 listener asks, when does the tight end issue come around to Finley? Okay, important distinctions that we have to make here. First off, can John Finley justifiably be held responsible for the lack of top-end talent in his tight end room? over the last 3 seasons? Certainly. Is it fair when Lance Mason commits to Wisconsin to rake John Finley over the coals for that?
No.
It is not at all. And I saw a lot of that on social media and on the message board. And I get it, right? Like, I understand why people are upset with John Finley. I understand that he's an easy target. But to act like John Finley had much of anything to do with Lance Mason's portal recruitment process is incredibly myopic. Because when you're in Lance Mason's shoes, especially like when you're an FCS guy with 1 year of eligibility left, looking to make an impact at the next level, give yourself a chance at the NFL, and even if you're not going to get a shot at the NFL, just to make whatever money you can in the meantime, what it's going to come down to is 2 things: opportunity and the check. And the check can sometimes override opportunity, as we have seen in the past with several portal recruitments. But Oklahoma was confident in the amount of money that they had set aside for Lance Mason. It wound up not being enough. And Wisconsin, to their credit, is a school that over the last several years, well, and even you go back further than that, really, throughout the 21st century, Wisconsin is one of those schools that you regard as a tight end school, right? Not the tight end school. That's Notre Dame or that's Iowa, Miami. But the style of football that Wisconsin has historically espoused is very conducive to production at the tight end position.
And that's the Big Ten as a whole as well. The Big Ten will always have more of an allure to tight ends than any other conference in college football. By the way, Jacob S. on our YouTube chat, watching you guys from Munich, Germany.
Hello.
Tonight.
What time is it in Munich? It's got to be, 9 p.m.?
Yeah, he did say tonight. So I think the sun is definitely down.
I want to say they're 7 hours ahead in Munich.
Let
me know if I'm correct.
That would sound about right. But to your point, no. Like, the only thing you can bring into this equation as it pertains to John Finley is that his room didn't put on any good film last year, and he also didn't put anything good on film as a play caller when he took over for Seth Luttrell after he was fired. So that could have a carryover into this year. But other than that, in terms of if you want to isolate it just to the pursuit of Lance Mason, no. I mean, there's not much he can do with that if Wisconsin says, here, we'll give you more money, and, oh, by the way, we're Wisconsin in the Big Ten. So, I mean, there's a level of culpability, but that culpability was committed in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Which, to his, and again, none of what I'm saying is intended to entirely absolve John Finley of blame for what the tight end room looks like right now, but what did look good on film for Oklahoma offensively in 2024? Yeah, John Finley's room was bad. Every other room was bad.
I mean, fair.
Reformed Homer says, when Steely comes back, put the glasses on and help him look for him. Oh, that would be hilarious.
No, that would.
He'd catch on quickly.
By the way, what did Steely do to y'all? The first text I see on the text line when I come into the studio is, stop being an ass, Steely.
He was going after one listener who was explaining yesterday's softball game to him like he was 5, as if he didn't watch it, and he took offense to that.
I mean, okay, fair. Kyle from Salazar, upset you guys didn't add me back on PSN over the weekend. I was not on my PlayStation until 1 a.m. this morning, this entire weekend, because my girl had a birthday party that had things
all weekend.
Well, there was a joint.
Talking like a 3-day bender here.
There was a joint birthday dinner on Friday, and then there was a party on Saturday, and then so no, I wasn't even on my PlayStation until like right before I went to bed, 10 hours ago. So no, Kyle, that's on the agenda for later tonight when I hop on the game.
Let me know what your username is, Kyle, so I know who I'm looking for. 5-star Randy says, in today's social media environment, is it possible the OU tight end room has a very negative stigma that is being used against it? Look, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Not one bit.
And everybody likes to act like, well, it's social media. I can say whatever I want. Who even cares? If anybody pays attention to it, they're whatever. Why should what I say affect what you – like, it has real implications. It does. it wouldn't shock me, and I don't know this for a fact, obviously, but like it wouldn't shock me if in the midst of Wisconsin's recruiting pitch to Lance Mason, knowing, of course, that he's strongly considering going to Oklahoma, they took him on a tour of OU Twitter. Here's what OU Twitter thinks of your position coach if you go to OU. Here's what OU Twitter thinks of your position group if you go to OU. You really want to deal with this?
No, we talked about this a couple of months ago, too, how negative recruiting can work, and fan bases on Twitter.
Yep.
How that can be to your detriment. I would not be shocked if they did exactly that. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go up to Wisconsin, of all places, by the way, and deal with those winners. I'd rather do that than my coach always being raked over the coals every single week. Valid.
A 405 listener asks, is it possible that Helms or McIntyre can start and play well? Yeah, it's possible because, look, it's pretty much anybody and everybody in competition for that starting tight end job right now. I guess I would probably give the slight leg up to Carson Kent and Jaron Kanik coming out of spring, but it could just as easily be Will Huggins or Cade McIntyre or Caden Helms or shoot, even Trinae Washington. Dan in Madison says, you guys are missing the boat. Tight ends go where they're being used. If they didn't want to catch the ball, they put another 50 pounds on and be a tackle. Tight ends block because they have to. It's a part of their job, but they'd much rather catch passes. Until we start using a tight end to catch the ball and not be a battering ram, we are not going to get elite tight ends out of the portal. As simple as that. That's an interesting point, Dan, and there is a lot of merit to it because what did Austin Stogner have? Like 16 catches in 2023?
They haven't featured a tight end really in the passing game since Mark Andrews.
Well, and it's a chicken or the egg type of conversation there. You have to have a tight end that's worth featuring.
Right, exactly.
But if you refuse to feature the tight end, you're not going to be able to attract guys that play that position. For instance, like I put the tweet out yesterday about Jake Roberts getting training camp or mini camp invites with the Chiefs and the Raiders, and I went and researched his stats. 12 catches? That was it, man?
Mm-hmm.
That was it? I guess it's easy to feel that way about a lot of guys that were running routes for Oklahoma last season because your leading receiver was Bauer Sharp with, 400 and change? So, not good. Not good all around. Okay. Interaction throughout the show thus far has been awesome on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Want to get to some more of your texts on the other side because we have a lot of very compelling ones. And also, Gavin Sawchuk entered the transfer portal Friday evening. That was surprising to some folks, not so surprising to others. We'll discuss that, what it means for Oklahoma and that running back room moving forward. On the other side, you're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Keep it here.
Feeling stuck in your current home? Now is the best time to make a move. Home Creations is making home ownership more affordable with low interest rate opportunities and special financing. Don't wait. Live like a champion today. Call Holly at 405-364-9999 to find your dream home.
364-9999 means Home Creations.
After a car crash, life can be hard. You're hurt, stressed, and then, when you need help the most, the insurance company doesn't care.
They drag their feet, question your injuries, and make things difficult. They put profits over people.
At McIntyre Law, we level the playing field. We take on the billion-dollar insurance companies so you can focus on what matters, getting your life back. Call us at 405-777-7000. You deserve better.
Big wins are blooming across Riverwind Casino.
And the jackpots have never been sweeter.
Go all in on your favorite table games.
Hedge your bets on the biggest wins and unbeatable entertainment.
Use your wild card for the best perks and the top rewards.
And play for your share of the $100,000 Lucky May Days giveaway. Win with the best.
And we'll see you at Riverwind.
The Mont invites you to come by and enjoy our high-quality food and drinks in our historic atmosphere. The Mont has won numerous awards, including Best Restaurant in Norman, Best Appetizer for our great queso, Best Exotic Drink for the original swirl, the Best Patio Dining for our beautifully landscaped patio. Come see the Town Tavern OU football scoreboards dating back to 1947. We'll see you at the Mont on the corner of Boyd and Classen, or call us at 329-3330.
For 3 generations, the John M. Ireland & Son Funeral Home and Chapel in Morris continued to serve the community by giving back to local schools, charitable organizations, and first responders.
We provide pre-planning for funerals and cremation services at the most reasonable prices.
We are proud to be a family-owned and operated funeral home.
Award-winning funeral home year after year, our family believes in serving the people of our community.
I'm John Ireland.
And I'm Solon Daniels.
You've got our word on it.
Hi, Josh Helmer here for my friends at Auto Image USA in Norman, where they have everything you need to upgrade your ride. At Auto Image USA, they have so many services for you like paint correction, window tint, paint protection film, or maybe you want that boat, RV, or car looking brand new in the interior again with the top-of-the-line detailing. Plus, you can get their Enviro Shield paint and interior fabric protection backed by their 3 or 5-year warranty. Call them today, 405-321-4444. They are the best. Check them out.
What is a good neighbor? It's someone nearby who helps make your life a little easier. I'm State Farm Agent Julia Chu, and my team and I take time to understand your insurance and financial needs. So whether you're preparing for retirement or in need of auto, home, life, or business insurance, get the kind of help you'd expect from a good neighbor. Visit the Julia Chu Agency or call 329-3311. Come visit at our new location, 701 Wall Street, Norman.
At Confidence Ford of Norman, we believe in living up to our name. Our commitment to confidence is in everything we do. Whether you're searching for the perfect vehicle from our extensive selection of new Ford models or pre-owned cars, our dedicated team will help you every step of the way. Because with us, you're family. We're conveniently located at 825 North Interstate Drive, Confidence Ford of Norman, a Cavender Auto family dealership where confidence is Cavender.
Locked in here on the ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton. The window for transfer portal entry is officially closed. Has been since Friday. For the most part, Oklahoma's roster turnover is all but complete heading into the 2025 season. Grad transfers can transfer anytime. They, of course, don't have to wait for a portal window, so I guess not out of the realm of possibility you could see a kid or two that has already earned their degree from the University of Oklahoma choose to transfer between now and the start of the season. But the last real consequential portal departure happened Friday night, right before the window closed, and that, of course, was running back Gavin Sawchuk. And something had to give. Right, Grayson? Something had to give in that running back room after the addition of Jaden Ott. There were too many cooks in the kitchen at that point between Ott and 4 guys who all made starts for Oklahoma last year in Barnes, Sawchuck, Xavier Robinson, and Taylor Tatum. So there was an odd man out, certainly. It just wasn't always clear who that odd man out was going to be. In the end, it is Sawchuck who departs Oklahoma with 2 years of eligibility remaining, and is obviously poised to go land somewhere in the P4 and probably be an RB1.
No doubt. And this was a situation where something just ran its course. And he pops off at the end of the year in 2023. 2024, injury-plagued, inconsistent, deployment was a little bit strange with DeMarco's running back room. So at the end of the day, his time with Oklahoma was just up, and that's okay. But the fact that this came out of left field, I don't know how you couldn't have expected somebody to leave. I mean, you just laid it out. 4 guys made starts at running back. 4 guys are capable, by the way, when they're available, and you just brought in another player on top of that. So, no, I mean, good luck to him. Good luck to him at his next stop, but somebody needed to get up out of there Because when you have too many guys in there that are that capable, sometimes heads can start to butt, egos can start to go through the roof, and it just makes everybody's job more difficult. So, one had to leave. Gavin Sawchuk left. You're going to be just fine at running back, and hopefully he lands somewhere where he can be productive.
Tattoo Baker says, too many horses in the stable, Parker. You missed it. Yeah, okay. Too many fish in the hatchery. Too many flat screens in the display case. Too
many ponies in the barn.
There you go. Whatever you want to go with. Yep, something had to give in that running back room. And it did. The interesting aspect of all of this is it was never going to be Xavier Robinson that left, right? I think everybody kind of put that together. Homegrown kid, 3 years of eligibility. Xavier Robinson was in all likelihood going to stick around, even with the addition of Jaden Ott. There had been some noise about Taylor Tatum. But between the two veterans in that running back room, you almost would have figured that if you just were considering that data on paper, Javonte Barnes would have been the more likely transfer than Gavin Sawchuk because he only has 1 year of eligibility left.
Right.
But yet it is Sawchuk that chooses to depart. And Florida Sooner on the text line says, Sawchuk was fourth team at best. Saying that is a consequential transfer is erroneous. It's not erroneous, Florida Sooner. That is a consequential transfer. Had he remained on the roster, Sawchuk would have seen time for Oklahoma in 2025. How much? I don't know. But you can't tell me that it's completely insignificant when a guy that has done as much in an Oklahoma uniform as Sawchuk has chooses to walk out the door. Now, granted, recently, if we're just looking at 2024, there's not a whole lot on that resume as far as data points for Gavin Sawchuk. But if you go back to 2023, 5 straight 100-plus yard games to close the season, including 130 yards and 3 touchdowns against TCU. You go back to 2022, finally got his opportunity late in the season as a true freshman to make his presence felt, rushed for 100-plus yards and a touchdown in the Cheez-It Bowl against Florida State. So this is a guy that has demonstrated that when he is healthy and when he has a half-decent offensive line in front of him, he can make stuff happen. Gavin Sawchuk leaving the running back room, you feel that. You feel that. Certainly not as much as you would have before Jaden Ott showed up, but you feel that. He would have seen the field. He would have contributed in a meaningful capacity. And if you didn't learn anything from the 2023 and 2024 seasons, it's that depth in your running back room is certainly worth having. Think about what Oklahoma was dealing with for most of the 2023 campaign. A walk-on in Tawi Walker, having to shoulder the load because Marcus Major was, Marcus Major. I guess he got a pro contract with the Ravens, which I would not have expected. But
yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, Marcus Major is going to get a shot in the league. But you had half of Javonte Barnes that season, and I quite literally mean 50% of Javonte Barnes because he was obviously hampered all season long. Gavin Sawchuk, it was a constant, until about week 8, it was a constant game of whether or not he was going to be healthy and available in that 2023 season. And then obviously in 2024, you get to the point where late in the season, they're pulling the red shirt from Xavier Robinson, who had not been expected to do anything but red shirt in 2024, for lack of a better option, for lack of a better alternative. Depth in the running back room is worth having. And so if for no other reason than that, you do feel Gavin Sawchuk's departure. It's okay to acknowledge that this doesn't sting nearly as bad as it would have 3 weeks ago, while simultaneously acknowledging that he was still a guy that provided value to the University of Oklahoma. And oh, by the way, if you're mindful of what he did off the field while a Sooner, Gavin Sawchuk, what do they call it? The All-State Good Works team or whatever that, I forget, I should know. But Gavin Sawchuk and Ethan Downs, I would say in the Brent Venables era, if you're talking about guys that have done the most off the field for the community and the youth and used their platform for good to influence others, Gavin Sawchuk and Ethan Downs are right there at the top of the list. A 405 listener says, we're losing maybe 30 carries, insignificant loss. Okay, if you feel that way, so be it. Sooner in Springtown says, if DeMarco Murray uses his running backs like he did last year, all of those running backs should hit the portal. They're going to be riding Jaden Ott. Let's not kid ourselves. They're going to be riding Jaden Ott.
Which is interesting because what was the sell to Jaden Ott? Because if Ott and his representation had any knowledge of what was going on with Oklahoma's backfield room last year, that would be a situation that you probably would avoid like the plague because of just how haphazard that was.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to have really sold him like, hey, you're going to be our featured back. We're going to ride you come hell or high water.
Pause.
Yeah.
Continue.
So it will be interesting to see what's going to happen in this running back room. But to get us back on track here, not having one other guy who is capable, because there's a difference between having guys who are depth pieces because they aren't capable of being a featured guy and having depth pieces who are capable of being featured guys. Mm-hmm. A lot can go wrong there. So ultimately, the parting of ways is probably best for everybody involved.
Jay in Tulsa says, yo, Grayson, the sell to Jaden Ott was a crap ton of money. There was a lot of money involved, no question about it.
Yeah.
But also, it's, hey, look, you're better than everyone here, and we're going to play you as if you're better than everyone here. And you just hope that holds up when he shows up in August, right? You hope he shows up and he's better than everyone. He is coming off the injury. Maybe that's slightly concerning to some folks. I'm not really worried about that as far as Jaden Ott is concerned, but you bring a guy like that in if and only if you feel he is measurably better than everybody else in your running back room, at least right now.
And I think he is measurably and substantially better than everybody. At least his production at the college level is certainly substantially better than everybody else. Now, Xavier Robinson might, just because of recency bias, might give Sooner fans a cause to pause about that. But other than that, yeah, absolutely. He is unquestionably RB1 going to you. There's no discussion about that.
Mm-hmm. Florida Sooner says, more bad news for you, Parker. What happens off the field is meaningless. OU has better become a win-at-all-costs team. Give me 10 guys who get arrested a la Georgia and an SEC title over a team full of good works guys. Okay, look,
y'all act like just because people go to jail, that means they're good athletes.
Totally get it. It doesn't have to be one or the other, right? It doesn't have to be one of the other or the other. You can build a championship team full of guys that are not only great football players but good citizens off the field. I happen to be of the opinion that Gavin Sawchuk is both. Glenn from Nashville on the text line chimes in. I'll just say it because a local pastor in Norman mentioned it on a certain Sunday. But Gavin Sawchuk gave some of his NIL money to local single mothers for Christmas gifts for their kids. Sawchuk is a good dude. That's worth something. We don't have to act like that's completely meaningless. There is more to life than football. There's more to life than OU football. And I understand OU's primary objective is to win football games. But Gavin Sawchuk was a great representative of the university for the 3 years that he was here. Phenomenal guy off the field, had his moments on the field. You wish there would have been more of them. But he battled nagging hamstring injuries, and ultimately here we are in 2025, and he just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so both parties can move on. It doesn't seem like there's any hard feelings on Gavin's side, certainly no hard feelings on OU's side. And you can walk away somewhat at peace with how everything has gone over the last 3 years. Not that it was ideal, but it benefited both parties.
A text from the 405. I'm not going to read this out loud, but I hope that goes well for you. Park, you can look at the monitor and see what text I have pulled
goodness.
Up.
Yep. This other 405 listener says, give me some jailbirds that can win.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. If they're running afoul with the law, are they going to be running afoul with the NCAA law, too, and be unavailable?
Yeah, trust me, you don't want to be Georgia. You don't want to be Georgia right now. Did you want to be Georgia 3 years ago? Okay, sure, maybe. You don't want to be Georgia right now.
Because I guarantee you Kirby Smart does not wish He does not go to coaches and be like, hey, you know what's an enviable position right now? Having to have my phone on at 3:30 in the morning because my guys were driving at 105 miles an hour and hit something.
Listen, I hate to say this. These words taste like vinegar coming out of my mouth. But you know the school that seems to have it all together right now, both competitively and culturally?
Texas.
Now, they did have a player arrested this morning for a DWI. So
did they actually?
They did.
Oh,
so maybe that example isn't as shining as it would have been 24 hours ago.
But I mean, the Isaiah Bond thing ended up being much ado about absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went undrafted. I do feel bad for him.
Yes. Florida Sooner says, Georgia is SEC champions. I will take Georgia right now 100%. Okay, fair enough.
5808 Nate. Grayson does know a bail bond guy, though. That's because
you voiced that commercial. I was like, wait, hang on.
Which I gave whoever it was that told me to voice that commercial a lot of crap.
As you should. Chris from Knoxville says, once it hits the 2 o'clock hour, people start wilding out there. Yeah. 214 listener says, dang it, Parker, true or not, never ever credit Texas. What are you thinking? I'm sorry. I didn't want to go there, but pertinent to the conversation. 405 listener says, they can run afoul of the law in Norman with no consequences. If Mixon had been anyone other than a football player, they would have gone to prison. Okay, listen, I'm not trying to drag I'm not trying to drag politics locally or nationally into this conversation. We should probably move right off of it, and so we will. Let's hit a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about Oklahoma's pursuit of McNeese transfer wide receiver Jermichael Carter. Is this one close to getting wrapped up for better or worse? We'll discuss on the other side. Hit us with your texts, your comments, your questions, your opinions at 405-651-3439. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Stay right here.
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe Sooner football? We do too. This is The Ref, home of Sooner fans.
What's up, Ref Army? It's Dusty Dvorak. Do you eat, sleep, and breathe football? KREF is the only place for the most comprehensive daily analysis of Sooner and college football. Catch me every Tuesday and Wednesday during the 10 a.m. hour of The Plank Show as I cut it up with Plank and Josh about everything in the world of Sooner and college football. That's every Tuesday and Wednesday on The Plank Show, and there's only one place to hear it. The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Download the KRF app today to listen from anywhere.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
That twinge in your knee isn't going to wait until Monday, and neither do we. At Orthostat, we've expanded, so you get better hours, better facilities, and the same great care. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Whether it's sprains, strains, fractures, or joint pain, from knuckles to knees and every joint in between, our same-day, affordable care gets you back to life faster. Visit OuchOrthostat.com to learn more.
Hi Norman, it's DJ Newsom with Alliance Bank, your community-driven, friendly neighborhood bank. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur, lead a nonprofit organization, or just someone seeking a better banking experience, we've got you covered. From business to personal banking, we tailor our services to suit everyone's needs. We believe in making banking easy and enjoyable. Visit our Norman location or call us today at 405-286-5750. Alliance Bank, banking tailored to your needs. Member FDIC.
What would it take for my child to only miss half a day of school for treatment?
What would it take to fund a cure for childhood cancer?
It would take all of us to come together to support the research. Research to discover more effective treatments for the 1 in 285 children in the U.S. who will be diagnosed with cancer. Children's Cancer Research Fund is a national nonprofit dedicated to ending childhood cancer. Join us. Go to childrenscancer.org today.
We all play a role in keeping our communities safe. Oklahoma is no stranger to attacks. It's now easier than ever. If you see something, say something. The free and anonymous Protect OK app allows instant reporting of suspicious activity, both in schools and the community. You can help keep your family and friends safe.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Download the Protect OK app today in the Apple App or Google Play stores. Funded by the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security.
Being blind doesn't always look how others may think.
Retinitis pigmentosa aimed to overwhelm my family.
It tried to cut me down.
I know where to find support and where I can be seen.
Innovative research, educational resources, supportive community. The Foundation Fighting Blindness is leading the charge on treatments and cures for blinding diseases. Donate today at fightingblindness.org. A public service message from the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
One final segment of Locked In here on a Monday. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. Parker Thune alongside Grayson Singleton in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, interacting with all of you via the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. There is a recruitment that's going down to the wire right now. Two recruitments that are going down to the wire. One of them has to do with football. One of them has absolutely nothing to do with football. My youngest sister is making her college decision later today between the University of Nebraska and the University of Oklahoma. So, my parents were Sooners. I was a Sooner. The two siblings between me and my youngest sister did not wind up Sooners.
What are they?
One of them is a University of Nebraska at Omaha Maverick.
Okay.
And the other is a Hillsdale College Charger.
Hillsdale?
Yes.
Isn't that like a Christian school or something like that? Is it?
Yes.
Or I could be. I could be mixing it up.
I don't know if they're denominationally affiliated or what, but yeah, it's a really little school up in Michigan with like an enrollment of like 1,500.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot going on in Hillsdale, Michigan, as I understand it. But yes, there is hope. We may have one more Sooner in the family, so we'll see what the outcome is later tonight. I have put my best foot forward in the recruiting game.
Okay.
No question about that.
All right.
As far as OU football is concerned, the recruitment that they are wrapped up in right now, the thing that is of paramount concern within the walls of the Switzer Center, is the pursuit of McNeese transfer wide receiver Jermichael Carter. Now, he had visited Baylor. He had a visit to Utah that, as I understand, never wound up happening, but then visited Oklahoma. Shortly thereafter, visited Vanderbilt. What's hanging in the balance right now is a potential visit to Tennessee. I say potential, mind you. He has not yet visited Tennessee, Grayson. He has not yet visited Tennessee. It's a possibility that he does at some point later this week, as I understand it. But what Oklahoma's trying to do, understandably so, is get this whole thing put to bed before he ever has the chance to make it to Knoxville.
I mean, fair, but here's the thing with Tennessee, and that their problem is, and this is where their handling of the Nico Iamaleava situation might come to bite them in the you-know-what. Jermichael Carter might look at that situation and be like, who's throwing me the ball? I mean, they've got 3 quarterbacks in that room, and combined, they've thrown like 11 passes, 9 of them by one guy. So, who, by the way, isn't that inspiring as of now. So, I mean, that could work to their disadvantage. But, I mean, this is one you need to get because you need more depth at wide receiver if you're Oklahoma. So, look, I don't doubt that they haven't put their best foot forward, but if the teams you're outfoxing right now are Vanderbilt, and you said Baylor,
That is correct.
Baylor, and then a Tennessee team that is in a quarterback fiasco right now, you should feel pretty solid about where you are.
I think so too. And OU is motivated, particularly motivated, to just go ahead and get this done because other options right now at receiver are not terribly enticing. The market has mostly cleared up at wide receiver. So if you don't get Jermichael Carter, if he winds up going to Tennessee or Vandy or Baylor or wherever it may be, then you kind of got to scramble, or you just got to stand pat. And that's probably not what you want to do right now. It's probably not what you want to do because you just did that at the tight end position. And you certainly don't want to sow additional seeds of doubt in the eyes and minds of your fans that you had two positions of need on the offensive side of the ball after the additions of Jake Michaela and Jaden Ott, and you had the whole transfer portal window to get what you needed, get what you wanted, and couldn't come up with a dude in either group, the tight end group or the receiver group. A 918 listener said, I just read Carter canceled his Tennessee visit. Any truth? I don't know if you could call it a cancellation. I don't know if you would really call it a postponement. But once again, as I mentioned at the top of the segment, that visit is up in the air. It was supposed to happen this weekend. It did not. Carter's agent told me this morning it may still happen this week. But for right now, it hasn't. And that alone makes you feel a little bit better about Oklahoma's chances because why the delay, right?
Right. A text from the 405, by the way. Tennessee, they did get the transfer portal QB that was at App State last year. But again, does that make you feel any better if you're a prospective receiver?
I'm not big on that App State guy,
I was going to say, I'm not too impressed with him either.
Feels like a major, well, maybe not a major. Feels like a downgrade from Nico.
Oh, yeah.
But I say that I'm also of the opinion that Nico himself is very replaceable and that it's more about Heupel and his mind and his system than it is about the quarterback. So maybe he can get the best version of Joey Aguilar. I don't know. But at least you know who QB1 is, as Sooner Lisa from BA pointed out, if you pick the University of Oklahoma right now.
Ellis and BA on the text line. Tennessee made the correct decision on their QB. Look, not to relitigate the whole Iamaleava situation. Sure, they probably made a good decision to part ways, but it doesn't mean that they won't have repercussions, though.
OU Tino says, guys, I saw the SEC set a record at 79 players drafted.
Mm-hmm.
What number does OU need to be at to be competing at the top of the league, 5 or 6 a year? And I guess this is where we can land the plane, Grayson, because Steely and I touched on this conversation a little bit in the 12 o'clock hour, but we didn't go terribly deep on it. Oklahoma accounted for 2 of those 79 draft selections for the SEC.
Yep.
2. They had not had that few draft picks in a single class since the 2002 NFL draft. They had 3 straight years, 2000, 01, 02, where they had only 2 draft picks apiece in each of those classes. Now, obviously, the 01 draft came immediately after a national championship, so there's not necessarily a direct correlation there between number of draft picks that you produce and the success of your previous season or the success that you're on the trajectory toward in the years to come. But what do you make of Oklahoma's lightest draft class in over 2 decades?
It's certainly the frustration certainly is exponentially higher given that Texas had more draft picks in the first round than Oklahoma had picked in the entire 7-round draft. And then also Oklahoma State, I believe, had 4 guys picked as well. One of them that went a lot higher than I thought he would with Nick Martin. But it's interesting because we know Oklahoma's season was wildly derailed, thanks in large part to injury. But even without injury, you still would probably have only had those 2 guys getting drafted. My point is this. Just because you don't have as many NFL draft prospects as you do, as you would like, doesn't mean that you don't have a good football program. Now, that's going to change now because of the condensing of talent around the country. So there is that to that, and that's going to change. But, I mean, those were your two guys. Now, maybe you would like more. Maybe that is a negative referendum on the Brent Venables era, where development has certainly been called into question and certainly should be called into question. But if you want to feel like, man, we're underselling ourselves, we're not living up to what Oklahoma is by putting guys into the NFL. We only had 2. By the way, both of them on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not going to fault you for thinking that, but I don't also think it's some alarming moment here. The 2 guys that were supposed to get picked got picked.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot of young talent on here. Develop them, and we won't be talking about this in 3 years.
Florida Sooner on the text line says, this draft class was an indicator of the lack of talent that Riley left. Let's not forget that this was Riley's last recruiting class that just left. And, okay, like there's some truth to that, but everybody that Lincoln Riley recruited that saw it through at Oklahoma long enough to be a member of this most recent draft class is a guy that's been coached by Brent Venables and his staff for the last 3 years. So the blame, if that's what you want to call it, is certainly shared between Riley and Venables and his current casts of assistants. Soon RX says Deion Burks would have been first round had he stayed healthy. That may be true. There was some buzz about Deion Burks being a first-round guy going into last season. But I'll say this. Regardless of what this 2025 draft class looked like, and it wasn't a spectacular draft class, Oklahoma's got the chance to have a pretty big one in 2026. A year from now, some of these guys that are getting ready to graduate, some of these guys that are getting ready to take off for the league, guys like, if you want to stick on the defensive side, Grayson Halton, Dominic Williams, R. Mason Thomas.
That's the headliner.
Yes. Kip Lewis. He could leave a year early, although he'll have the option to stick around. Robert Spears Jennings is going to be moving along. Go to the offensive side of the ball. Burks is certainly in that conversation, as is Jaden Ott now. Who knows what happens with John Mateer. This could be a draft class for Oklahoma next year that approaches double-digit selections. Now, we are a long way off from that point, and those guys have to perform on the field this fall before we start seriously having that conversation. But I'll bring up the example of Texas again. Texas had no draft picks in the 2022 NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
We're only 3 years removed from that. Things can change pretty quickly. If you get the right guys in and you develop them.
You know, to the point that Deion Burks would have been a first-round pick if he was healthy, I'm not so sure about that. Because you look at how that draft ended up going, Luther Burden was my wide receiver 2, and a lot of people's wide receiver 2 behind Ted McMillan.
Mm-hmm.
He went in the second round. So it was for the draft being hailed as one that was very weak, boy, did it have a lot of twists and turns.
It did feel like a little bit of a weak draft, especially at QB and wide receiver, 2 positions where historically, I think over the last decade in particular, you've seen teams start to reach with more frequency.
Especially at wide receiver, yes.
Yes. Quarterbacks and receivers, teams have demonstrated the propensity in recent years to reach into the first round to grab a guy they probably didn't need to draft in the first. Like, shoot, I can remember in 2017, remember when the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thought that was a reach? That was not a reach in hindsight. But again, like this goes back to the whole recruiting conversation too. It's one thing to make a judgment in the moment about what a recruiting class looks like on signing day, but it's likely going to be a far different judgment come graduation day. When those guys are done at the collegiate level and you can look back in retrospect at what they've produced, at the value that they've added to your roster, then your hope is that ranks even higher than whatever your recruiting class ranked as in the moment when all of those guys signed at the end of the cycle. For instance, we talked about the 2023 class a little bit earlier. That was, I think, the number 8 class in the nation. You look at it now, man, there are some major misfires in that class. And guys that didn't pan out for one reason or another. In some cases, it's a variety of different things. But the point is, that class looked great on paper at the time. But that was when we all thought stardom in an OU uniform was coming for somebody like Makari Vickers or Derek LeBlanc or Lewis Carter or Josiah Wagner or Jaquez Petaway or Keon Brown or Joshua Bates or Jackson F. Arnold. Needless to say, it did not happen in any of those cases. And much more. Dalen Smothers, Eric McCarty, Caleb Hicks. Yeah, that's a who's who of Sooners that you forgot were Sooners in the Brent Venables era.
And how many of them are still here?
Very few. We can dig into that more tomorrow. We've got a lot more ground to cover tomorrow, and we will do that when we return for another installment of Locked In. Same time, same place, tomorrow afternoon. Right now, though, stick around here on The Ref, because coming up next, Teddy Lehman and Tyler McComas have another 3 hours of OU sports talk ahead. That's it for us. Grayson, Singleton, Parker Thune, signing off on this Monday. You're listening to The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.